I get it standing in the kitchen with a bag of green coffee beans, trying to decide if you should splurge on a proper roaster or just stick with the cheap stovetop method can feel like a gamble. You've probably seen a dozen YouTubers brag about perfect home-roasted coffee, but then the next video warns you about scorching the beans, uneven flavor, and a whole lot of smoke. If you're on the fence about taking the plunge, I'm going to walk through what it's really like to have a dedicated electric roaster on the countertop, what kinds of people actually get their money's worth, and where the hidden trade-offs sit. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the everyday setup. The unit arrives in a fairly compact box, and the instructions are straightforward enough that you can have it plugged in and ready to go in under 10 minutes. The base is a sturdy stainless steel heating tube that sits on a small metal platform. You place the bean hopper on top, slide the lid shut, and you're basically looking at a mini oven for beans. There's a single knob for temperature and a timer dial that you can crank from a few minutes up to about 30. The whole thing draws about 1,800 to 2,500 watts depending on the model you pick, so make sure you have a dedicated outlet or a circuit that can handle the load, otherwise you'll trip the breaker in the middle of a roast. Now, why would anyone bother with a machine like this when you can just toss beans into a pan? The biggest advantage shows up when you're trying to keep the roast consistent across multiple batches. With a stovetop, you're constantly adjusting heat, shaking the pan, and hoping you don't burn the bottom layer. This roaster's heating tube circulates hot air evenly, so the beans tumble in a controlled environment. In practice, I found that after the first few trial runs, the color shift from light to medium to dark was repeatable within a couple of shades. That's a big deal if you're chasing a specific flavor profile for a coffee tasting or trying to maintain a signature roast for a small CAF. One practical use case I tested was roasting a batch of chestnuts for a weekend market stall. The roaster's temperature range let me set a low, steady heat that gently toasted the chestnut shells without turning the nuts bitter. It took about 20 minutes, and the results were surprisingly uniform, nothing like the uneven char you get from an open grill. The same machine handled a kilogram of raw peanuts, giving them a crisp, roasted finish suitable for a snack bar. Even grain enthusiasts can pop in a small amount of barley or rye to develop a toasty aroma for homemade malt. The flexibility to jump between coffee, nuts, and grains makes it more of a kitchen multi-purpose tool than a single-purpose coffee gadget. But there are limits you need to be aware of before you hand over your credit card. The hopper holds roughly 1 kilogram of product, which translates to about 3,040 cups of coffee at most. If you're a serious home roaster who likes to pull multiple kilos at a time, you'll quickly hit the capacity ceiling and end up doing multiple cycles. That adds up in time and energy consumption, and you might start to wonder whether a larger, commercial-grade roaster would be a better long-term investment. Also, the unit does emit a noticeable amount of smoke when you push it into the dark roast zone. It's not a toxic plume, but it can set off a smoke alarm in a tight apartment kitchen if your ventilation isn't up to snuff. I recommend using it near a window or with an exhaust fan turned on, especially if you're roasting the beans to a French or Italian level. Who should definitely consider buying this? If you're a hobbyist who loves the ritual of turning raw beans into a cup you can trace back to the farm, and you also enjoy roasting nuts or chestnuts for seasonal gatherings, this machine hits a sweet spot. It's also a solid entry point for a small coffee shop that wants to experiment with single-origin microlots without committing to a 200-kilogram industrial roaster. The price point is low enough that a few bad batches won't feel like a disaster, and the stainless steel interior is easy to clean, just a quick wipe after each use and you're ready for the next batch. Who might want to skip it? If you're looking for a set-and-forget solution that can handle commercial volumes, you'll be disappointed. The limited hopper size and the need for manual monitoring mean it's not suited for high-throughput environments. Likewise, if you live in a tiny studio apartment without proper ventilation, the smoke factor could become a real nuisance. And for anyone who expects a fully automated profile with pre-programmed roast curves, this model stays firmly in the manual control camp. You have to watch the beans, listen for the first crack, and stop the timer when you think the